So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jen Tremon, and I am the Associate Director of Programs with the Atlanta Beltline Partnership. If you are not familiar with us, we are the nonprofit entity for the Atlanta Beltline and supporting the Atlanta Beltline vision. Tonight, you are joining us for one of our home empowerment workshops. These are free informational workshops put on with some great partners to teach homeowners and renters about different resources available to help them remain in their homes. I'm really excited tonight to be joined by our good friends at Atlanta Legal Aid and Karen Brown, who is the director of the Home Defense Program there, to learn a little bit more about home scams and other predatory practices. Before we get started, just want to remind you that you can ask questions at any time by using the Q&A feature, and we'll get to as many as possible before the end of our time here together. And lastly, I want to share about a program we have available, which is the Legacy Resident Retention Program. This is a resource for current homeowners in South and West Side neighborhoods of the Atlanta Beltline to help cover the rise of property taxes through tax year 2030. For more information on that, if you want to see the eligibility requirements and if you may be eligible, you can go to beltline.org/retention fund, email us at retentionfund@atlblp.org, or give us a call at 678-718-5469, and I will drop all of that into the chat. And while I do that, I want to turn it over to our great panelists today. So with that, Karen, please take it away.
Thank you, Jen, for that introduction, and I'm very glad to be here this evening. Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well today. My name is Karen Brown, and I'm the Director and Managing Attorney of the Home Defense Program of Atlanta Legal Aid. We are a specialized unit at Atlanta Legal Aid that represents homeowners and home buyers who are at risk of losing their homes, who may be struggling with their mortgages, who may have applied for a loan modification and been wrongly turned down, who may be at risk of foreclosure, who may have been targeted for some kind of housing scam. And so tonight's topic is home scams, and I am now going to pull up my PowerPoint presentation, in which I will go over, and I will go through that, and then we can take questions at the end. Now, I'm going to do screen sharing, if I can get over there. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that.
We can. It looks great.
Great, thank you. Okay, so do you see this thing at the top? I'm going to try to move it down. Try to get that out of the way. Okay, so here's an overview of the topics I'm going to cover this evening. We're going to talk about home and equity theft scams, common features of these scams. We're also going to cover ways to protect your home and your mortgage and your money, and legal rights and options, and where to go for help. Another thing. All right, so first, who are the common targets of scams? I think most folks know the answer to this question. The homeowners who are elderly and are disabled, typically because they have limited Social Security income, and so they may be financially struggling. But homeowners who are elderly and or disabled are definitely common targets of home fraud and equity theft scams. Also, homeowners facing foreclosure or who are otherwise financially struggling. Homeowners of color, especially those in credit-starved areas and gentrifying communities. The kinds of homes that are targeted are those that have equity, those that have no mortgage or carry a pretty small mortgage balance in comparison to the true fair market value of the home. And also homes that are in need of repair. Those are the targets of the scammers, these kinds of homeowners and these kinds of homes. All right, so there are some common scenarios for home fraud and equity theft. One involves home sale scams, typically involve these they call themselves wholesale investors or we buy ugly houses scenarios. Those are very common. Those are the ones that target homeowners with repeated phone calls, text, emails, flyers, letters, door-to-door, in-person solicitations, etc. Those are very common, especially around the Beltline area. Another common scenario are mortgage assistance scams, folks who are struggling with their mortgages. This is also very common, especially during the past, year and a half through the pandemic, but because people are struggling with their mortgages and they need help. So the scammers are coming out of the woodwork to try to prey on people who are in a desperate situation with their mortgages. Also, mortgage or property tax foreclosure rescue fraud is a common scenario for scammers. People are facing mortgage foreclosures or they're behind on their property taxes and they may face a property tax foreclosure. Again, the cockroaches come out of the woodwork and prey on people in these positions. Sometimes the scammers target people who've already been foreclosed on, especially when we have a real estate market like we do now, where the values have really gone up. When there's a foreclosure sale, there is sometimes money left over after the foreclosure sale, and the scammers prey on the former homeowners to take what should be their foreclosure surplus out of their hands. Home equity theft and home fraud cases also target home purchase cases. That is, people who want to buy a home, but are having trouble qualifying for a good mortgage loan. So the scammers prey on them with deals like land contracts, rent-to-own transactions, leases with the option to purchase, and also seller financing. So these are the common targets of scams and the common scenarios. I'm going to go over this in some more detail. All right, what are some common features? As I mentioned before, highly aggressive tactics targeting homeowners, repeated phone calls, text and letters, and even unannounced visits to the home. They claim that they will buy the home quickly in an as-is condition, as if that's something that's a good idea. They always say, this is a special offer, this is the last day, you've got to take advantage of it now. Any results that you hope for, they guarantee. Of course, guaranteed is in quotes. They can't guarantee any results. And what is guaranteed, sadly, is that the home will be taken and the equity and the money. They typically discourage the homeowner from talking with family, friends, and trusted advisors, and sometimes discourage them from talking with even their own mortgage company. They want to gain your trust, and they want to keep that trust from you by discouraging you from talking with others. They need to keep your attention, and they need to have you sign the papers that they want you to sign. So they don't want you getting advice from others. Sometimes they falsely claim to be affiliated with the mortgage company or with some governmental entity or with a nonprofit organization. Again, they're trying to gain your trust. Invariably, they are rushing you into signing whatever documents they have. Sometimes they're paper documents they want you to sign. Sometimes they're electronic documents. And they bring, quote unquote, for your convenience, their laptop to your home so you can just sign there. But with that kind of setting, you're not given the opportunity to read the documents, to read them carefully, to really vet them before you sign, because they're just putting some computer in front of you, laptop or iPad, for you to sign and telling you what the documents in the electronic documents say, but not telling you exactly what is in those documents. The documents invariably don't say what is verbally promised. So these are the common features of scams. And of course, we say, just say no. If you see any of these features, walk away, run. Scammers use technology and old school methods in trying to lure people into their traps. They use robocalls and text messages. They use email. They send emails and they want you to take the bait. They want you to click on the link in their email. They also advertise on the internet or have, internet advertisements, or links to their websites. People may look on the internet for assistance for, dealing with their mortgage or foreclosure. And these scammers want to lure you into their trap. They want you to think that they are available to help you, but this is really just bait for you to click on to get into the trap that's going to result in losing the title to the home, losing the equity, and losing your money. They also use technology, again, as I mentioned before, with electronic documents. Any required notices that they're going to provide to you, if they're required, they're going to provide them, quote unquote, electronically. They might send them via email. And again, they're going to have you sign on some laptop or iPad. And they're doing that to avoid the situation where you have paper in hand so that you can really look at the document and see, is this document saying what they say it says? Is the document promising what they have promised verbally? Invariably, the answer is no. And so they're going to avoid any questions by having you sign something electronically. They also use old school methods to lure you in. They send letters. They put flyers in your mailbox. They hang, door hangers on your front doorknob. They advertise on billboards. They advertise on TV. They put signs up on the roadside. They put signs up on utility poles. They are trying to grab your attention in whatever way they can to try to get you into their trap. They also come to you in person. They go door to door. They will, stop you on public transportation and they will stop you in the store. They will stop you in parking lots. They do anything they can to get your attention and to try to lure you into their trap and try to gain your trust. Because what they want is they want you to sign papers that will turn the title over to them so that they end up with title to the home, the equity out of the home, and any of your money. All right, these attempts to gain trust, they use these tactics. They contact you repeatedly. Sometimes they provide small gifts, a bag of oranges or candy or something, or they perform some small minor task, because they are trying to get you to trust them. Sometimes there's already an emergency situation. You might be facing a mortgage foreclosure or a property tax foreclosure, but maybe you're not, but they want to create a sense of urgency because they want to rush you into signing some documents. They pose as a savior. They pose as someone who's going to help you with your financial problems. They pose as someone who's going to help you solve your mortgage problem, stop the foreclosure sale, possibly get you a loan modification, stop the property tax foreclosure sale, help you pay your debts, etc. They are posing as someone who's going to help you. They also invariably want to keep you isolated, because if you don't talk with other people, then you're still going to be in their trap. If you talk with other people and you get help from other people, you're going to be out of their trap, and you're going to be more likely to ask questions, not sign the papers that they want you to sign. So they want to keep you isolated and not talk with others. It's important to recognize and avoid all of these scenarios. Again, their goal is to have you sign papers that's going to result in transferring title over to them so that they can take the home itself and the equity out of the home, and oftentimes your money. All right, what are some of the common home and equity theft scams that we see? There's the classic bait and switch. You need money either to stop a foreclosure sale or to pay some other debt that you need to pay pretty quickly. and they promise to make you a loan. And they provide papers that you think are loan papers, but what's hidden in the loan papers is a deed, a document that transfers title to the crook. So classic bait and switch. They promise you one thing, a loan, but what they have you sign is a deed transferring title to them. And once they have the deed, they can evict you. Another common scam. They make a false promise that they're going to buy the home. Well, they're going to buy the home. They're going to get title. But the false promise is that they're going to sell it back to you. But then they provide no money to you or very little money to you. And the terms of the transaction, the terms that would, in theory, allow you to get title back to the home, they're designed to fail. They never want you to get title back to the home. The whole point is for them to have title and all of the equity, and for you to have nothing. Another common scenario that we see, especially around the Beltline, fast sales. The investors and scammers prey on folks because they want to get them to sell them their home for an amount that is far below the true fair market value of the home. And what they're going to do is then immediately flip the home and sell it to someone else for a very large profit. Sometimes they flip the home the very same day that they get title from you. Sometimes there might be some delay, a week or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But the point is that they're paying a very small amount, much lower than fair market value, to the homeowner. And then they flip it and make a large profit for them. And in some of these cases, the mortgage isn't even paid off. The mortgage of the homeowner who's now lost title to the home. They're off now trying to find a place to rent or maybe a place to buy, but they can't because the mortgage that they had on the home hasn't been paid off. It's still attached to the property. The mortgage is still in their name, but the title to the home is no longer in their name. The mortgage is in their name. The mortgage is still in their credit report, not paid off. So they're going to have a tough time finding another place to rent or buy. All right, predatory mortgage lending. That was something that we saw a ton of in the 90s, in the early 2000s, in the mid 2000s, and we still see it today. It's not as common, and it's more common with individual lenders, hard money lenders, but we still see it. Predatory mortgage lending, making loans without regard to the ability of the borrower to pay the loan. They typically involve high interest rates, high points and fees, short terms, short maturity dates, and balloon payments. And then, as I mentioned before, there are home purchase scams that target people who want to buy a home, but who may not qualify for good mortgage loans. So the scammers in these cases target people with these rent-to-own deals. They lure people in saying, you can buy this home, but you just need to rent it first. You can lease this home and have an option to purchase. Or you can enter into a land contract with them and they'll, so what they're saying is that you're buying the home, but the paperwork says, no, you don't own it. And the way this is set up, it's designed such that the person who thinks they're buying a home will never buy the home. It is all designed to fail. Sometimes there's the transfer of title to the home buyer, but there's seller financing. But again, it is structured so that it's not going to result in record ownership of the property or long-term ownership of the property. The scammers are using these homes. They're churning people in and out of these homes. And they're doing it this way because they know that they can make more money churning people through these homes than they would by doing regular rentals. There are also, of course, home repair and improvement scams. The home repair and improvement crooks prey on people whose homes are in disrepair. And this is especially tends to target people who are elderly. or disabled who have limited income and can't afford to keep their homes up to code or in good condition, or afford to, keep it up and maintain the home. So the crooks prey on these folks, and sometimes they, make false claims that they are part of the government or some part of some government program that's going to help them fix their homes. Instead, they have them sign, again, either papers that will result in the transfer of title or will result in a high cost mortgage loan that pays them for home repairs and improvements, which they never perform. Or if they do perform them, they're shoddy and incomplete. And then they go off with their money, but then the homeowner is left with a high cost mortgage loan and repairs that were not done or are shoddy and incomplete. All right, there are also, as I mentioned before, mortgage assistance and foreclosure rescue scams. What happens here? Someone is behind on their mortgage or they're facing a scheduled foreclosure sale. So what these scammers do is that they say that they will help the homeowner apply for a loan modification, or they'll help the homeowner stop a foreclosure sale. They're charging money to do this. And in the process of this, they're collecting sensitive information from the borrower, social security numbers, bank account numbers, and they may request that the fee that they be paid, in an unconventional means, such as by cash or with gift cards. Well, the point of that is to make the money non-traceable so that you can't track them down later. And what happens? They take the money, they do nothing to help you, and then they disappear. So what we want folks to know who are struggling financially, who really need mortgage assistance, who really need help when they're facing a possible foreclosure, we want folks to know that help is available. Free help is available. All right, there's one more scam that I want to talk with you about, and that is what we call the foreclosure surplus scam. In Georgia, when there's a foreclosure sale, especially in today's market, the foreclosure sale price might be something that is greater than the mortgage that is owed, the money owed on the mortgage. So when that happens, when the foreclosure sale price is more than what is owed on the mortgage, a surplus may be available. And that former homeowner is entitled to that surplus, and they should be able to get that without paying anyone any money whatsoever. All they have to do, and this is something that we do, we help folks do after a foreclosure sale where there's a surplus, is we contact the foreclosure law firm that handled that foreclosure sale. We request an accounting of that foreclosure sale price and of the mortgage balance. And then as part of that, we're going to help the homeowner, the former homeowner who's been foreclosed on, get those surplus funds. Now, they may be asked to sign a release saying, I promise not to sue, and all I'm doing is getting the surplus funds. That's fine. But what the scammers do is that they offer to help folks who've been foreclosed on get those funds, but they say, we'll help you, but we'll charge you. And they charge folks outrageous amounts. They often have folks sign some kind of complicated contract or assignment of those surplus funds. And then the scammer ends up contacting the law firm that handled the foreclosure sale. And the scammer is the one that gets those funds. It's insidious. People who've gone through a horrible situation of having lost their home to foreclosure. And then there's the possibility of money after the foreclosure sale, but the scammers get even that. So anyone in that situation, don't pay for help getting a foreclosure surplus. You can get it without having to pay anyone anything. All right, what can folks do to protect themselves from scams? We always encourage folks, don't sign any papers or anything electronically that you don't understand or are being pressured or rushed into signing. Anyone who's trying to get you to sign anything, just stop. Don't sign. The scammers, can scam you with a gun, or they can scam you with a pen. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to sign. Don't pick up a pen. Don't sign anything. First, have a lawyer or someone else who's a trusted advisor review the documents with you before you sign. They want you to sign something, say, put it in writing. I'm going to have my lawyer look at it. Just don't sign it. Have someone else review it with you. And, all the years I've been doing this, whenever I've had the opportunity to review documents in a situation like this, my advice is invariably don't sign it. I've never seen any documents that I would say sign it. But it's also extremely rare for the scammer to want to share the documents. They don't want your lawyer to look at it. But ask them, put them to the test, have them produce the documents for your lawyer to look at. And then we can have a frank conversation about what the documents actually say and whether or not it's a good idea. So don't pay for help. You can get free help from Atlanta Legal Aid or HUD certified housing counseling agencies. What else can you do? Certainly don't answer those robocalls. Anyone who's calling, you don't know who's calling, don't pick up. Just don't pick up the phone. Let it go into voicemail. Or many times the scammers, don't leave a message. They're not leaving a message. If it's not something you know, don't even bother answering or calling back. They're going to send text as well. They're going to send emails. You don't know who it is, don't bother opening it. Or if you do bother opening it just to see what they have to say, whatever you do, don't click on any of the links or attachments to the email or text. Don't give anyone you don't know and trust your social security number or bank account information. They're trying to get that so that they can sell that to other crooks who are then gonna, mask as you and charge up credit cards and take out loans in your name. So whatever you do, don't give out that kind of precious information. The other thing that we advise folks is to go ahead now, before you're in a dire situation, and do some advanced planning. Think about who owns your home now. If you're married, you probably want both you and your spouse to be on title to the home. Not everyone does, but that may be something that you should think about. And if you do want that, make sure that both names are on title to the home. We often encourage folks to have the kind of deed where they have what we call joint tenancy with right of survivorship. Two people who are married, who own the home, if one of them passes and the kind of deed they have has this language, joint tenancy with a right of survivorship, if one passes away, the other automatically owns the full title to the home. If they don't have that kind of language, if the deed doesn't have that kind of language, then if one person dies, then that their half of the house is going to have to go through probate. Now, maybe there's a will, maybe there's not a will, but we encourage deeds that provide for a joint tenancy with right of survivorship, especially when the folks who own it or the folks at issue are married. We also encourage folks to have wills so that when someone passes away, that you have a document, a legal document that says what you want to happen with the home when you pass away. That's important to have so that folks know after you pass what you want. It's also a good idea to have a financial power of attorney. A financial power of attorney is something where you designate someone that you trust to handle your financial affairs when you're in a situation where you can't handle your financial affairs. So if you get sick, whether with COVID or something else, then you've got someone who has the power of attorney to handle your financial affairs, to access your bank account, to pay your mortgage while you're in the hospital. So anyway, some advanced planning would be helpful to deal with some of these kinds of situations when emergencies come up, when there's a death, in the family, which happens, unfortunately, we have to prepare for that. So, and not everyone's situation is going to be the same. Not everyone should have the deed with a joint tenancy with right of survivorship, but having a will, having a financial power of attorney with someone that you know and trust can be helpful for some of these emergency situations. All right, we also encourage folks to learn about your legal rights and options. These scenarios that we've talked about, these home scams that we're talking about, these folks prey on people who are struggling financially, who are, having difficulty with their mortgages, who might be facing a mortgage foreclosure, who might be facing a property tax foreclosure, or just high bills and they're struggling. So what are their legal rights and options so that they don't get in a situation where they get lured into some scam? So one of the things we look at is, well, what kind of mortgage is it? What kind of hardship is it? They have a mortgage, they're behind. Is it a COVID hardship or some other kind of hardship? What kind of mortgage do they have? Because the kind of mortgage they have will determine what are their legal rights and options, and it'll help us determine what is the best legal advice for that person. So if they have a federally backed mortgage loan, they have an FHA loan, VA loan, a loan owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Well, during the pandemic, the federal rules say the person has the right to request a forbearance. A forbearance is a situation where you don't have to make the monthly mortgage payments for some period of time. Now, it doesn't mean that the mortgage company is going to forgive you from ever making those payments, but it's a period of time where you don't have to make those mortgage payments. A lot of folks during the past 18 months, during the COVID pandemic, have gotten a forbearance. Not everyone, but a lot of folks have. So if you haven't, but you do have a COVID or other hardship, you might be able to get a forbearance even now. So what about when that forbearance period ends? And for a lot of folks, their forbearance periods have ended. They're past the 18 months that they were allowed to have for a COVID forbearance. They can now request a deferral. For folks who have regained the income they had before, who can afford the regular mortgage payments, but can't catch up the arrears, if they have a federally backed mortgage loan, they have the right to request and get a deferral. The mortgage company will put the mortgage arrears onto the back of the loan so that they will be due and payable when the loan matures, and it won't be interest bearing. So it won't accrue interest, but it will be due and payable when the loan matures. Now, not everyone has regained the income they had. A lot of folks are struggling. They have some income, but they can't pay the regular payments. And so they need a loan modification. So folks have the right to request a loan modification. Now, in many cases, if it's a federally backed mortgage loan, the lender should be automatically offering a loan modification, but that doesn't always happen. But these are rights that people have if they have an FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, or Freddie Mac loan. Now, what if now 2/3 of the mortgages out there are federally backed, but a third of the mortgages are not. So if someone has a mortgage that's a private mortgage, it's not federally backed, they don't have the rights that other folks do who have the federally backed mortgages, but they still should request a forbearance or a deferral or a loan modification. Each lender, each loan that's a private loan may be in a pool of loans that, they have their own rules about what kind of loss mitigation or deferral or loan modification they might allow. But it's worth asking whether it's a forbearance or deferral or a loan modification, even if the loan is not federally backed. Now, what else? There are mortgage assistance funds that are going to be available. Under the American Rescue Plan Act, Congress funded Treasury, and Treasury has funded all of the states. Treasury has allocated the state of Georgia $354 million in mortgage assistance funds. Georgia has, the Department of Community Affairs has designed a program. They have not yet launched the program. They're waiting to hear back from Treasury but they have access to the funds. They will get the funds, and the program will be launched when we don't know. But those mortgage assistance funds will be available. They will be available to folks whether they have a federally backed mortgage loan or not. If they have a COVID hardship, then folks should apply for mortgage assistance from the state of Georgia. And I've provided the link to the page with the Department of Community Affairs has. You can go ahead and click on the link or access this link, and you can provide your name and email address, and they are supposed to notify you by email when the program is up and running. So, or you can just go back and check their website periodically. All right, what about folks who are facing high property taxes? Folks who are facing high property taxes, we always encourage apply for all property tax exemptions for which you may be eligible. The homestead exemption, senior exemption, disabled exemption. There are a number of exemptions that folks may be able to apply for, and that can help reduce the property tax bill. You can also appeal the property tax assessment. And I know the Atlanta Beltline has had other events that have educated folks in the community about the possibility of applying for property tax exemptions and appealing the property tax assessments. But just another plug for that's another option to deal with property taxes that are high and difficult for the homeowner to pay. All right, when folks are dealing with problems with their mortgage servicers, what else can they do? They can file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You can go to their website and there's a way to file a complaint with them. If the loan is an FHA loan, you can call and make a complaint or try to understand more about your rights by calling this 1-800 number, which is the HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development National Servicing Center. You can also appeal or escalate with the issue with the mortgage servicer. We always encourage folks to do it in writing. Read, carefully for any appeal deadlines. But those are important ways to, if you've got a problem with the servicer, file a complaint. Call HUD if it's an FHA loan. Appeal or escalate the matter with the mortgage servicer. You can also kind of initiate a legal response requirement by sending in a written request for information or a written notice of error to the mortgage servicer to a special address. So that's something that we encourage folks to do, or we might do with our clients. But sometimes that can take more time to get resolved than just doing a simple appeal or escalation with the mortgage servicer. So whether we would advise someone do that is really going to depend on the situation. All right, what else is important to know? What do you need to know about foreclosures? In Georgia, we are a non-judicial foreclosure state. And what that means is that mortgage companies do not have to get permission from the courts in order to foreclose. In about half the states in the country, mortgage companies have to go to court. They have to file a lawsuit. They have to get permission from a court before they can foreclose. But that's not the case in Georgia. Now, there are some protections, in Georgia. It's not a lot, but it's something. Now, what else happens with foreclosures in Georgia? When do they occur? They occur the first Tuesday of each month on the steps of the courthouse. Now, there are federal law protections. Generally, under federal law, mortgage servicers are not allowed to initiate foreclosure until the borrower is 120 days behind. And that's 4 months. However, during COVID-19, there are some additional protections that are available under federal law as well as regulations. So there were some foreclosure moratoria. They were not allowed to foreclose or to initiate foreclosure when the loan was federally backed. However, those moratoria have ended. So we no longer have those in place. There are the forbearances that were required. I mentioned those, and those are still available for some folks who haven't requested a forbearance before. There are also forbearance extensions. There are also post-forbearance options. when the period of the forbearance up to 18 months ends, there are options available, as I mentioned before, deferrals or possible loan modifications. And even for folks who don't have a federally backed mortgage loan, under current regulations, folks have additional time to resolve the situation with those mortgage arrears. So there are some federal protections for folks. Now, there are also the basic Georgia, I won't say protections, I will say notice requirements as they relate to foreclosures. So in Georgia, again, the mortgage company doesn't have to file a lawsuit. All they have to do to initiate foreclosure, all they have to do is send a letter no less than 30 days prior to the scheduled foreclosure sale date. They have to send it by certified mail. They also have to advertise the foreclosure sale in the local legal newspaper once a week, 4 weeks in a row prior to the scheduled foreclosure sale date. Then what happens after the foreclosure sale? After the foreclosure sale, whoever has bought the home at the foreclosure sale has the right to evict the homeowner, but they cannot just kick them out on the street. They can sometimes offer cash for keys, or if they don't, the only way they can evict the person is they have to file something in court. So that's where they're required to file something in court, and they have to file what we call a dispossessory warrant in court. It's basically an eviction proceeding like what landlords file to evict tenants. So someone's rights in that situation, once the dispossessory warrant has been filed in court and served, the former homeowner has 7 days to file an answer. That's not much time, of course, but we're in Georgia. And then when they file their answer, a court hearing is scheduled. We always say, go to court. Even if you lose, the judge is going to give the person 7 days to move. Those are the basic rights in the context of foreclosures and then the post-foreclosure dispossessory. There are some rights there, and it's important to know about those rights. The post-foreclosure, there's not a lot of time, but there is some time for a court process and time to move. All right. What about ways to potentially stop a foreclosure sale? Yes, we're always advising folks before a foreclosure sale, what are their options? Well, some are obvious, but they may not be financially feasible, such as paying up the mortgage arrears. Well, if the person had the money to pay their arrears, they wouldn't be facing foreclosure. But sometimes they may be in a situation where, they have now savings, or not savings, but maybe they've applied for Social Security disability, and all of a sudden they've finally been approved, and now they have a lump sum amount where they could potentially pay the mortgage arrears. Or maybe they've sought help from a family member who does have the funds. So in those situations, you can pay up the mortgage arrears. We always advise, if you're going to pay up the mortgage arrears to stop a foreclosure sale, make sure that you get something in writing that says the foreclosure sale has been canceled. We're not going to go through with it. It's the arrears have been paid, because you don't want to be in a situation where you pay the amount and then they foreclose anyway, and they later say, oh, well, you didn't pay enough. Anyway, one option is to pay the arrears. The other that is very common is to enter into some kind of workout plan. And I've talked about the COVID-19 forbearance and deferral and loan modification workout options. Other options, another common option is to file bankruptcy. It's not something that people want to do, but if they have to, if it's the only way to stop a foreclosure sale, it is a legal, valid way to stop a foreclosure sale, and it provides time for the homeowner to catch up the mortgage over a 3 to 5 year plan, or time to seek a loan modification while they're in that bankruptcy. Now, there are some of these other options that I've mentioned. Refinancing, although refinancing close to a foreclosure sale is really not going to be a viable option. That would really need to be done long before the foreclosure date has been set. And the person's going to need to qualify for a good mortgage loan to make that a good option. Also, selling the home. Well, of course, trying to sell the home when the home is scheduled for foreclosure is very difficult, because people are going to be squeezed on the price, because the public is going to know, because the legal ads are out there that they're scheduled for foreclosure. So the time to try to sell, if that's the best option for the homeowner, is long before the foreclosure sale date has been set. Now, as lawyers, we know that, yes, another way to potentially stop a foreclosure sale is to file a lawsuit and get a temporary restraining order from a judge. However, you need to have viable legal claims with the likelihood of success on the merits. And it's very hard to have that kind of situation, but it is an option. All right. I want to go back to something that we kind of started with about these, scams, these, scammers, investors who are really pressuring folks to try to sell their home, especially folks who are living around the Beltline. Think about it. Do you really want to sell your home? If you don't want to sell, but you're struggling with your mortgage or your property taxes, you want to save your home from foreclosure, you want to save your home from getting anywhere near a foreclosure sale date, please call Atlanta Legal Aid. We can talk with you about the kind of mortgage you have, what your financial situation is, and what are your legal rights? What are your specific legal rights regarding your specific mortgage loan? Is there a way to save your home so that you don't have to sell it? If you decide that you really do want to sell or that you need to sell, here's our advice. Hire a licensed and reputable real estate agent. And talk with different real estate agents before deciding who you want to hire, but hire someone who's licensed and reputable. Research, or have the real estate agent research the sale prices of similar homes in your neighborhood and the surrounding areas. You want to get comparables from your real estate agent before agreeing to a listing price. Now, they're going to advise you, but you want to find out, what could you sell your home for? What are other homes being sold for that are like yours? And before you sign anything, have your own attorney review any papers before you sign. All right, where can you get free legal help? From Atlanta Legal Aid. We're an income qualifying program, so not everyone is going to be eligible, but just look at our website, atlantalegalaid.org. You can apply online. There's a way to apply for legal assistance online, or you can call us in the Home Defense Program. Our number is 770-817-7538. We also have a special unit that serves people who are age 60 and older. Again, atlantalegalaid.org. You can apply online or call one of these numbers, 404-657-9915, or the 1-888 number for seniors. Again, where to get help, Atlanta Legal Aid or HUD Certified Housing Counselors. You can find HUD Certified Housing Counselors at this website, hud.gov/find a counselor. And also, if you've been scammed or you see scams, of course, contact Atlanta Legal Aid, but you can also report those scams to the Federal Trade Commission. All right, I think I've taken up more time than I was supposed to. Thank you for your attention. I'm going to stop the screen share, and please let me know if you have any questions. And I apologize for going over. I think I took longer than I was supposed to.
No, it was good. It was a lot of great information, and I think that is more important. So appreciate your wealth of knowledge. So as a reminder, if anyone has a question, you can just type that into the Q&A box, and we will ask those, or comment section if you are on Facebook. So we don't have any at the moment, but I do have a question for you that may be difficult to answer, so I apologize. But, for people that are joining us tonight, do you have any sort of short advice for them to share with their neighbors, their family, their friends, community members that aren't able to join us tonight, just so they can get kind of, the snippet of this great information? Of course, we'll have the recording for everyone, but maybe like a broad overview or just like key points for people to take away.
Yeah, I think the key points are this. Most people want to keep their homes, and there are people out there who can keep their homes and afford their mortgage, afford their property taxes, but not everyone can. And we want to help those people who are struggling. Unfortunately, the scammers are being highly aggressive and targeting those folks and trying to get them to sign papers to steal their home, to steal the equity out of it, to steal the folks' money. We want to stop that from happening. We're available to help folks. So the word that needs to get out is that we're available, and folks should understand that they don't have to go with these scammers. They may have other options.
That is a great takeaway. And one thing I forgot to mention, just to keep plugging it, if you do need more assistance with your property taxes, we have a number of programs available. Many of them are partnered with Atlanta Legal Aid. So every March, we do a homestead exemption filing workshop. We have just a general one and then one-on-one appointments to help you file, because that deadline is always April 1st. So make sure you join us for that. And then every summer around the end of June or July, depending on when the bills go out, we do those tax appeal workshops too. And these are all for free. So definitely join us if you just want to learn or you want help with those individual appointments. Just another plug. So, okay, a couple questions here. So referring to the home repair scams, I know those are very common. We see that a lot on the Beltline with seniors. Do you have any advice if you're getting work done to make sure you get it completed? You see it a lot where people get a deposit and then never come back or whatever.
Don't pay the contractors up front. Certainly, make sure that you have a contract that sets out in detail what the contractor is supposed to do. That the work that they're supposed to do, that the materials they're supposed to, install are all set out in a lot of detail, and make sure that you don't pay them all up front. You can pay them, a little bit up front. Sometimes people talk about paying a quarter up front and then a quarter after, a quarter of the work is done, half the work is done, and then 3/4 of the work is done, etc. So, pay them in those kind of installments, but don't make a large upfront payment. Or, we've just seen it time and time again. They will walk away with the money and not do anything. And certainly don't make a final payment until everything is done to your satisfaction.
Yeah, it's a great point for the final payment. Do you recommend having a lawyer look at that contract, or is that something that people can do on their own? Just make sure it's detailed.
Yeah, we don't normally look at home improvement contracts, or, folks don't typically, contact us and ask us to look at that. But, if they're a senior or disabled and they want us to look at it, we'll look at it. But typically it's not something we would look at. The concern is if it's not really a home improvement contract and they're trying to get them to sign something else, such as a high cost mortgage loan or transfer of title to the home.
Right.
Or they claim that they're, working for a government agency or a nonprofit, and these are free repairs, when in fact they're not.
Yes, good points. Okay, so we have a follow-up question there. When you pay a contractor in installments and they threaten to file a lien and walk off the job if you don't give them 100%, can they really file that lien, or are there things that they have to do to prove that they didn't get that payment, or et cetera?
There is law about, that provides, the ability for contractors to file liens. And, we've seen them do that. But if they really haven't completed the work, then don't pay them. And if it gets to be a legal situation where they're threatening a lien or they have filed a lien, then that's when it's time to reach out to a lawyer. And you can certainly call Atlanta Legal Aid.
I'm sure taking pictures is always helpful too, of different stages of the process.
Yes.
So another question here, how can you tell if you have a survivorship deed?
The language is in the deed. Sometimes it's in the title of the deed. Sometimes it's in one of the main paragraphs on the first page of the deed. It used to be that Georgia law was strict about where the language should be or what the language should say, but the Georgia law has gotten more accepting of different ways of expressing that. But it's going to be in the title or one of the main paragraphs on that first page.
Good. It's good that something is straightforward. I know they often can be kind of complex. So right now, that is our last question. I'll give people a couple seconds to type those in, and then I can just give some closing remarks. Is there anything you would like to say as a final point to drive home, perhaps?
Well, thanks for your attention, for everybody. And I would encourage you, there's, we don't have a lot of folks on, participating in this tonight, and hopefully folks will be able to see it later. But, not everyone has access to the internet. And so I just encourage you to reach out to homeowners who you think might need help. And we've got flyers, we've got cards. We want to make sure that folks know that free legal help is available. Folks want to keep their homes, and we want to help people keep their homes. Affordable housing is a huge problem. And when people lose their homes, they have nowhere to go. So we want to help people stay in their homes.
Kind of said it better myself. I was gonna make the same point, so I will go ahead and do that to drive it home. Please take this information that you shared and share it with your neighbors, your friends, your family at your neighborhood meeting. Word of mouth is one of the strongest methods of getting this information out. We will have the recording. We also have some of those cards. Happy to mail those to anyone, but just please tell everyone you know. The more that we can get the word out about this, the better. And thank you all for your time. Karen, that was excellent. I really learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else did too. Really appreciate your time. And for those of you that took the time to join us, I've heard there's a big Braves game on tonight, so hopefully you didn't miss too much of it. And we will have this recording on our website at beltline.org/empower. It will also be on the Atlanta Beltline Facebook page for you to repost and share and all that good stuff, so your friends and family can see it. And with that, I will bid you all good night, and thank you again for your time this evening. Take care.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody else.